Today is Friday, August 16th, and today was day 18 of transcranial magnetic stimulation therapy, or TMS, for depression and anxiety. Today, when my mom picked me up from work, because I don't drive, she said I didn't look as tired as I usually do. Like usually after like a long day of work, being there from like 7:30 to 3 or 7:30 to 4, I look dead and I'm exhausted. I don't feel as tired, so I guess that's a good thing. And also I've been sleeping more, right? So typically I would get 6 to 6.5 hours of sleep, and as of the last couple of days, like 3 or 4 days, I've been getting like anywhere from 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So so that's good. I don't know if that's like a direct um, side effect, or if it was caused by the TMS therapy, but I think more sleep is always good anyway. So today, again, they did the bilateral stimulation. So the um, fast tapping on the left side for depression and the slow tapping on the right side for anxiety. And they said that um, after today's treatment, I have 22 more treatments to go. So I'm almost halfway there. I mentioned how I tend to get like depressed, and my mood tends to be a lot lower like on weekends or long holiday breaks from school, because I work for the school as a speech therapist. However, I think it was last weekend um, that I was super depressed, and I talked in my last video about how that might just be an effect of burnout. It might be that I'm very burnt out, and somebody commented on one of my videos that, you know, us people with ADHD tend to take on too much at once, and of course that's gonna burn us out. And there's definitely some truth to that. I think that I am the type of person who always has a lot going on. Like I can't remember the last time that I didn't have like that I wasn't juggling like 3 or 4 things at once, right? So right now I'm juggling online graduate school for speech pathology, and I'm a full-time job, and being a mom to a 10-year-old, and I'm also uh, doing my TMS treatment 5 days out of the week. So as soon as I'm out of work, I go straight to treatment so I can get there on time. And it seems like I'm always going and going and going. And then like even before I started doing the TMS treatment, I was tutoring. So not only did I have a full-time job, but I had an additional part-time job for a company where I was a reading specialist. I had my full-time day job as a speech therapist in the schools, and after that, I would go to people's houses and I would tutor kids for like 1 to 2 hours at a time. And then I would come home and I would do, again, graduate school. So I've always had like 3 or 4 things going on for like as long as I can remember. And I'm sure that that burns me out. I don't know why I'm like this. I really don't. Because I'm not really so great at juggling several things at one time. And I think that I need to slow down, right? I think that once I complete my graduate program, which like that's still 2 years away, I really only just finished up the first year. Um, Maybe if it's just the maybe after I complete my graduate program and my treatment, if it's just like full-time work that I have to juggle, maybe it won't be so bad. But I don't know. I still feel like I need the freedom to choose my hours and to choose how many kids I want to see a day, and to choose like when I want to, like what hours I want to work. I feel like I'm just that type of person. So I still might just opt to just work part time as a speech therapist through telehealth or something. I guess we really don't know what the future holds. Um, but I also want to point out that I've been reading online. I tend to go on Reddit a lot, especially the forum for TMS treatment, right? And a lot of people tend to talk about a dip. So they say that they experience a dip where their depression tends to get a lot worse about halfway through the treatment, or sometimes sooner. And now I'm wondering if what I experienced last weekend was that dip. Um, was it last weekend or the weekend before? I can't remember because I know there was a weekend where I was feeling like crap because I had come off my stimulant medication because I ran out and I forgot to refill it. But then there was another weekend where I was taking my stimulant medication as usual and I still felt really bad, like really depressed. So today is Friday, so I guess we'll see if I feel that way tomorrow and Sunday, right? Hopefully I won't, but we will see. And for those of you who are new here, my diagnoses are major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, ADHD, and cerebral palsy. Um, and I have been taking antidepressants. I had been taking antidepressants for a while, and in my channel you'll find that I've reviewed a bunch of different types of antidepressants, and SNRIs and SSRIs, Strattera, Wellbutrin, Zoloft, I don't know, just a bunch, and also a different types of like medication for ADHD, both stimulant and non-stimulant medication. But as of right now, and as of like before I even started my TMS treatment, the only medication I'm taking is the 26.1 milligrams of Asteris, which is a stimulant medication for ADHD. So I'm not taking anything as far as like antidepressants or anything for my anxiety at this point. I am going to therapy also, psychotherapy once a week, and it's online. So I'm sure that that's probably also helping. I just, full disclosure, I kind of want to be transparent with you guys and let you know everything else that's going on in my life, again, because I don't want to like attribute, like, if I get better, I don't want to just attribute it to the TMS and be like, this is like the thing that I did that helped me. And I also don't just want to blame it for like the days that I'm not feeling well, but I am just wondering if maybe what I was experiencing that weekend where I was feeling like crap was like a dip. That dip that people keep talking about online that you tend to experience during TMS treatment. And it's not something that everyone experiences, but it seems like it's pretty common. And let me know if you've gone through TMS, if you've experienced a dip as well. Um, and so, yeah, so today, again, they did the bilateral stimulation. I don't know exactly how far they got as far as the intensity because their goal is to increase the intensity as they go along. Um, and it wasn't painful, like it wasn't uncomfortable, just a weird sensation, but like it felt fine. And that's one of the things that I was afraid of because I have read horror stories online about like, why do people say TMS is not painful? Like this really hurts. I wonder if it's because like different like clinics do it differently, or maybe they're not slowly working their way up the way that they've been doing with me, or maybe everybody has like different pain, a different pain tolerance. So that I'm sure has a lot to do with it. But so far for me, it hasn't really been painful. It's been pretty tolerable. And I'm almost halfway through the treatment, so I hope that it stays that way. Today, Today was a pretty stressful day. In the morning, I met with HR and with my supervisor because they had to approve my intermittent family leave request, which I requested so that I can leave from work an hour early because I usually get out at 4, so that I could leave at 3, so I could be at the TMS treatment place by like no later than 4, right? So that I could have my treatment done from 4 to 5. And it was pretty brief. It was just the HR lady and my supervisor, and they just like reviewed like, okay, so these are the times that you need off, and is this how long your treatment's gonna last? Blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, and they said, okay, your leave is approved, which was, in hindsight, I think that yesterday when I was talking about how they were making such a big deal out of it, I wish that they didn't require all of this from me. But the meeting wasn't as bad as I thought. They were just more like confirming what I had already said to them via email. So it was like literally like 5 minutes long. Um, and they approved it. So that's good, I guess. So, and then another thing, so that was early morning. I had that meeting via Zoom like at 8 in the morning. And then I had a meeting at around 1:15 with uh, the for a student of mine, because I work at two different school sites as a speech therapist. And the one of the school sites, I go there as needed, right? I'm an itinerant SLP, and it's like 45 minutes away from my house. And last year I was up there 3 times a week because the caseload of kids who needed speech was bigger up there than it was down here at this other school that I work at, which is like 10 minutes away. Both schools are under the same district. They're uh, so they're just kind of really sending me wherever they need me most. And this year we agreed that I would only go up there once a week, one day out of the week. Uh, and that day is Tuesdays, and that day is packed with kiddos, back to back to back. Um, so we had a meeting to discuss a kiddo who I haven't even seen yet. Like, I haven't seen any of my kids because the way they do things up at the other school is that they don't provide services for students the first 2 weeks of school, because we just kind of want them to like get acclimated to their new schedule, and meet their teachers, get used to their classroom, and get to know their peers before we start interrupting like their day-to-day school life by pulling them out for like speech services. And also we need that time to really like work on our schedule, because some of these kids have multiple services, not just speech. They have RSP and OT and PT. So we have to like coordinate with different service providers for to work on a schedule that works for everyone, and that still provides the least restrictive environment where we're not just constantly pulling the kids out for services. So it's it's a whole process, right? And it's different for every school. Like at the school that's closest to me, we don't see kids the first week back back after summer break, but we start providing services the second week. At the other school, we don't see kids the first 2 weeks, and we start providing services the third week. So I haven't even met the kid again because we just finished up the second week, and technically I'm not supposed to start seeing him until next week on Tuesdays, which is the day that I'm up there. But the school psychologist reached out to me. I've only been, again, we've only been back to school from summer break for 2 weeks, right? And out of those 2 weeks, I'm only up at the school for one day. I'm only up there Tuesday, so I've only been up there 2 days. And those 2 days, I basically used them to try to get a hold of facilities and IT, because they moved me to a different room. And I just I'm trying to get like my office set up with like the phone and the printer, and get a cabinet set up that I ordered, and just organize my space and schedule my kids. That's like those 2 days that I was up there, that's basically the only thing that I've had time for. Ideally, one of my supervisors said, if you have incoming students that are coming from a different district or a different school, ideally the first week or 2 weeks after summer break, the one thing that you want to do is call the parents, introduce yourself, and just kind of start building rapport, building that relationship with the parent, and just being like, you know, this is so and so. I'm the speech therapist at this school. I will be servicing your child. I will be providing services as is written on their IEP. Services will continue the way that they are written from their previous district. And you can, this is my number, this is my email if you ever need anything. Is there anything that you feel that I should know to be able to, best support your child? And I just did not have the time those 2 days that I was up there to call any of the parents. And then another thing that my supervisor said, like, if you have new students, it's a good idea for you to pull them in even if you're not providing services, but kind of pull them into the speech room, introduce yourself, and be like, look, this is where we're going to be having speech. But again, I didn't feel like I had the time to do any of that. I like just barely got my like schedule set up or completed, right? And that took forever. And a couple of days ago, I had the school psychologist call me. And for this kiddo that I was telling you guys about, I'm the case manager. I'm a case manager for kids when the only special service that they have is speech. And this kiddo is coming in to like transitional kindergarten, and I suspect that they will be needing like additional services, right? I suspect that this child um, will eventually, it's possibly that they will be needing additional special education services, maybe like a separate classroom setting, like a special day class is what we call it. But at this very moment, the only services that he came in with were speech and language services, and so that makes me the case manager. Um, and it's really up to the school psychologist to run a full evaluation, a psychoeducational evaluation to decide, okay, this child is not in the right placement. They should probably be placed in a mild to moderate SDC class because they have additional needs. Maybe the child is autistic, or maybe the child has like a specific learning disability. But I don't get to decide that. That's up to the school psychologist to run her evaluation. I'm just in charge of speech. And I feel like that might be where we're headed with this child. But again, I haven't even met the child. So anyway, I was down here at the other school, and she called me and she goes, have you met with so and so, this kid, And I'm like, no, I'm literally only up there once a week, and since we're only in the second week of school, I've only been there 2 Tuesdays, and I that was barely enough time for me to get my schedule together and set up my classroom. Um, she's like, because you know the principal has been calling home for this kiddo to get picked up early several days in a row because they are eloping, so they're like running away. They're exhibiting all these other behaviors. They're hitting like the teacher and the class aide. Um, and so we want to hold an emergency IEP meeting. And I'm like freaking out because I'm like, okay, I don't know anything about this kid. Like literally, I can read the IEP that he came in with, but I don't even know him. I haven't even pulled him out. Like I haven't even pulled him out for services. So okay, my supervisor, who is the SPED director, sets up a meeting for us to meet today. And since again today I'm at this other school, I had to zoom in. Um, and I could already tell like the atmosphere was like so the school psychologist was there, the principal was there, um, my supervisor, the SPED director, the child's teacher, the child's parents, the child's grandparents, and myself. It was like a full house, right? And I was the only one that was there via Zoom. Um, so it was a bit of a contentious meeting, I guess would be the word. Um, Parents were not happy that I hadn't started providing more sounded more like grandma was not happy that I hadn't started providing services for the child, even though by law we have 30 days from the time that the initial meeting is completed for transfer students. We have 30 days to like start providing services. Um, and also that's again one of the things that we have at this other school is we don't provide services the first 2 weeks at school. And I explained that to her, and then she said, the child came in with an IEP, and it says there that he needs to be serviced, every week. So you have services to make up. So grandma's already like on the defensive, right? And I like wanted to explain, look, by law we have 30 days. Like that's not the way we do things here. And I did say we give them 2 weeks to acclimate, right, to like their new school environment. Um, and my supervisor kind of texted me and said, "This is not a fight you want to pick with this family right now." So like he's kind of telling me, yeah, like just agreeing with like whatever she says, right? So I was like, all right. I was like, yeah, we give them time to acclimate the first 2 weeks of school, but yeah, if services need to be made up, that's fine. Like I have no problem making them up. And she said like, yeah, make a note of that. And I'm just like, okay. Um, and and like initially the child came in with an hour and a half a week of speech services. So 30 minutes of speech services 3 times a week. And that's because he was coming from a program where it was like a specialized program that just provides speech. But in the school district, we don't do things like that. Our goal is to provide the least restrictive environment. The most that we really see kids for speech is like twice a week for 30 minutes. Uh, and so I guess they had an initial meeting with somebody else from the school, and the child services were reduced from 90 minutes a week, like 30 minutes 3 times a week, to once a week for 45 minutes. And that's what I said. I said, all right, I'll continue to provide services for so and so as is written in their IEP for once a week for 45 minutes. And the parents were like, what do you mean once a week for 45 minutes? Like that he's coming in with like 3 times a week for 30 minutes. He should be getting 90 minutes of speech. And before I could say, well, we're not providing we want to provide the least restrictive environment, which means we don't want to be constantly pulling the kid out of the environment with the rest of his peers, right? Um, before I could even say anything, my supervisor jumped in and said, "Oh, you know what? It's based on need. So if you guys feel that like the child needs that extra time, then uh, we can provide it." And like it kind of upset me because I'm like, I'm the one providing speech services, and I'm only up there once a week. So it's not just me. They have a full time speech therapist up at that other school, so I'm assuming that's gonna fall on him to see the kid for the other 2 days out of the week. Because I'm only up there once, so I can only see him for once a week for 30 minutes. I feel like I didn't really get to advocate for myself, and I feel like basically like I was being attacked by the grandparents and the parents. Um, and like I didn't really like do anything wrong, and like it bugged me that my supervisor wasn't letting me speak. But then later, like he was like, after the meeting he texted me, he's like, I'm gonna explain to you why I agreed to increase services. I don't know if he could tell that like I was upset, but he called me and he was like, well, I don't want you to feel like I'm stepping on your toes, or like that I'm like disagreeing with your recommendations, but I know this family, and grandma is so and so for whatever district. She has connections, and this is just not a family you want to pick up a fight with. And I didn't want it to turn into like, whatever. So I was like, all right, I understand, but that's still like a lot of like 90 minutes is a lot to provide to a kid. Um, but I just like it. I don't know. It was just not a fun meeting to be in, to say the least. Like by the time it ended, I had a headache, and my anxiety was like through the roof. So that's a really long story, and props to you if you stuck here and listened to all of it. But I like kind of had to explain how it went down. That sometimes we have these meetings with like parents and family members that just end up like this, right? Like it's almost impossible to avoid conflict sometimes. But it's like I feel like I've been on both sides of IEP meetings because I have been a child who has received IEP services. As somebody with cerebral palsy, I was in special education my entire life. I had a special education like PE class, adapted PE, and I was also in speech. And so, as a child, I was on the receiving end of these IEP meetings, often times trying to translate for my parents because they were immigrants and they didn't speak English, and trying to advocate for whatever it is that they wanted. But like, I feel like a lot of times there's a misunderstanding that we like parents and like the IEP team or the speech therapist or whatever, that they're like on opposite teams and that they have to like argue with each other. Like, it's not the parents against the special ed team. Like, we really are all on the same team and we're just trying to do what's best for the child, right? And sometimes more services doesn't necessarily mean better because we're just disrupting the child's daily routine more often, which is it just means it makes transitions harder. It'll make it harder for the child to acclimate, to get used to just being with their peers if they're constantly being pulled out for special services. Um, so there's just a lot that goes into it. But yeah, today was one of those days for one of those meetings that was very stressful. So by the time I got to my TMS treatment, when the technician asked me to rate my anxiety and my depression on a scale from 1 to 10, I said depression at 5, and anxiety was between an 8 and a 9. Um, like, these are like my least favorite moments of being a speech therapist. This is not why I got into this field. I got into this field to help kids communicate and learn to speak and not to be like berated or belittled, or you know or have to like deal with conflict when I'm just trying to help the child. Like, really, I am. But I mean, I guess that's something that teachers and special education providers kind of have to deal with. It comes with the territory. um, yeah, so that was pretty much how my day went. The treatment was fine. It was just, the usual. Um, yeah, I think I covered everything. I shall be back with another TMS video on Monday when I resume treatment.